The Chicago Bears have now officially been eliminated from playoff contention, and the question is what's next for the Chicago Bears? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, there's both some salt and some positivity thrown on Brian Flores as a potential next head coach for the Chicago Bears. We're going to take a look at that. And what are the keys for the Bears tonight against the Vikings? We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And last night, the Washington Commanders, they got a 20-19 victory over the New Orleans Saints. And they have now eliminated the Chicago Bears officially from playoff contention, even though I think most Bears fans had come to the realization that it wasn't going to happen for the Chicago Bears this year. Like, when you look at it, it's just kind of funny how it bookends, right? Like, our hopes started getting dashed with that Hail Mary play against the Washington Commanders that won them that game. And it really sent the Bears into a tailspin. And then now the door is now officially closed with the Washington Commanders getting another win, over the Saints. So it's unfortunate when it comes down to. So the Bears are now eliminated from playoff contention. And what's next? I think nothing changes for the Bears, right? Like I said, this team should have been operating under the understanding that they were not going to be making the playoffs, and they got some tough decisions to be made. And the head coach is one. Things that need to change with the roster. What that next head coach also brings to the team. On yesterday's live stream, me and the fellas talked a little bit about not only just what a head coach could bring offensively as far as leadership, things like that, but also that we hope that with the change that maybe we see a little bit change in the defensive scheme, as well as I think something that could really benefit this team as well. Less zone coverage, moving away from the cover two could help a lot. And the Bears really have to now find their direction. Like, there had been a team that had been able to kind of say that they were on the path of direction the first 2 years under Matt Eberflus because they improved, right? Wins over year, they improved. Also looking at like how much of the veterans we lost that first year, replacing those guys, bringing in a crop of young guys and new talent to kind of build together, that we were able to say that we were moving forward at least, right? Now, maybe not to the way that a lot of, everybody wanted to see, but we've been able to say we were at least taking steps in the right direction and moving forward. Now, though, it's clear that the Bears, they need a lot, right? Like, we need to fix that offensive line. We need a coach that's going to have better understanding. And I think with the loss last week, and we'll see what happens today, that it's more than just Matt Eberflus. I think Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron were a big part of it. You can't overlook just the late game situations that Matt Eberflus could not navigate as a head coach and not say that he wasn't at least part of the problem. But it just goes to, listen, the Bears got to figure it out. And it's a real possibility. There's a very real chance that the Chicago Bears do not win another game this season. There's a chance of that. And if you have that, right, which would then be an 11-game losing streak to end the season, which the goal coming into this was clearly to make the playoffs, right? You really got to look hard at yourself. And, with all the rumors going around about Ryan Poles' job and not and this and that, we've talked about it. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I'm sure we'll talk about it more during the offseason. But regardless of any of that, the Bears have to find their path. They have to find their direction, and they have to regain what they thought they had, but was really a mirage. But they have to regain that and really be in that direction. They have to figure out their way there. And so that goal does not change for the Chicago Bears, regardless of what and how this season ends. Regardless if the Bears win another game, they don't win another game, none of that changes. You got to get in your direction. So, a lot of things are up there. We know that the coaching search every other week, you're going to get a different, favorite depending on what the media wants to push at that point. It's kind of rotating through some of the rumored, short list for the Chicago Bears is kind of where it stands out now. And, that's understandable. That's going to happen. There's no way around that when you look at it when it's all said and done. And so the Bears just got to figure it the hell out. This is going to be an offseason where hopefully some of that clarity is added for the Chicago Bears future. And, now you've gotten it. You got Caleb. He's your quarterback. I think that, there shouldn't be as much question there. There's still going to be some people that question it until the Bears win. And that's 100% fair, right? But you have now your quarterback that you're not moving on from anytime soon. You got your young wide receiver in Odunze. You got DJ Moore locked in, right? You got to fix that offensive line. Swift's locked into a long-term contract. Still think the Bears may have to look at running back at some point in this draft or in the offseason just because of, Roschon Johnson and the concussion history that he's already shown with the Bears. But, we still got 4 games left to be played, right? That's why it's hard to be like, let's just focus on moving forward because we still got games left to be played. Yeah, the Bears are eliminated from playoff contention, but we still got games left to be played. I'm really looking at the players. Yes, I'm looking at the coaches as well, but really looking at these players that are going to be here next year and seeing what type of heart that they show, especially the leaders in DJ Moore and Jalen Johnson. You guys have been some of the most vocal people, but some of your performances haven't necessarily lived up to that vocality that you've been having and the way you've been yapping, right? So we want to see how you lead this team, right? And what comes from that and how these players kind of build something. It's all about pride now. 100% of it is all about pride and what you lay out there on the field, and we'll see what comes of that for the Bears. Now, with that said, I said one of the biggest decisions for this Bears team is the coach, and I think we all understand that. We all know that, and there's been 2 coaching candidates that kind of have had things that have come out about them lately, and one that was an interesting point was raised, right? And this came from the Dan Le Batard show, in which Tua talked about Brian Flores and him being on that team, and he's blaming Flores for some of the things that went on there. He said this: I don't care who you are. You could be the president of the United States. If you have a terrible person that's telling you things you don't want to hear or probably shouldn't be hearing, you're going to start to believe that about yourself, and that's sort of what ended up happening. And then they also talked about how Brian Flores has the race discrimination lawsuit pending against the NFL over his firing by the Dolphins. And the candidacy that he's had for previous head coaching roles. And so there's been some thought there thrown about it that maybe the McCaskey family would not approve Brian Flores being hired as the next head coach because of all the drama going on with it and the fact that there have been some teams already that have shied away from hiring Brian Flores because of all the drama kind of going on around his name as the next head coach, right? But then on the other side of that, you do get something from this one came from Luke Braun, who is the host of Locked On Vikings, who said this: I think he'd make a really good head coach for the Bears specifically. I actually love it. I hate how I love it for the Bears because I mean that there's the idea of tradition with the Bears and stuff, but the Bears need their mean streak back, right? Like they need to get their everything fears us kind of thing. Everybody fears Brian Flores. The problem is that the NFL owners hate this guy. Many owners deeply hate this guy because of the lawsuit with Miami and all that stuff. Like, it's political. We thought we were losing him the last year. He didn't get a call. It was crickets. So Brian Flores, apparently somebody that, is respected within the Vikings organization, but owners around the league, because of the discrimination lawsuit, have a issue with Brian Flores and him potentially getting head coaching jobs. I know people are going to say, compare this to like Mark Jackson in the NBA after the job he did with kind of helping instill kind of the principles of that Golden State Warriors team that then, Steve Kerr came in and helped push even further and win titles with. But there's thoughts of that, right? And will the Bears be that organization to look at what other other ownership groups and say, no, fuck all that. We're going to hire him. He's our guy. And at some point, right, if the Bears were to do that in light of how some NFL ownership groups view Brian Flores, listen, I would be ecstatic if my franchise were to do that because that would show something that the Bears haven't quite done, and that's actually do something different, right? I would love to be able to say that by this Bears organization. We haven't necessarily seen the Bears do anything that's outside the box, but at the same time, if guys are saying that, hey, he ruined our confidence, you got to kind of look at that as well, at least in a little bit of a degree, right? So let me know what you guys think down below. With kind of the dual nature of these reportings on Brian Flores, some people pointing to him as somebody who really was a shitty person, to somebody saying, hey, listen, he's the guy that we talked about. We needed a leader of men. We talked about that we need that dog mentality back with the Chicago Bears organization, that he could bring the guy to be that. And maybe also the no nonsense, no bullshit. When you look at what some of the other players have done on this team, Tyreek Stevenson, maybe he's the guy to bring that around, or could he kill the confidence of some Chicago Bears players? And how does that make you feel about him being one of the people reportedly on the short list for the Chicago Bears? I think it comes down to this. I don't know how much. I do believe that the McCaskeys are going to want to approve whoever the Bears do. sign as a head coach. I just think, until I hear otherwise, this is kind of what we've seen here in the history of the Chicago Bears. So I have no reason to think that it's going to be anything different anytime soon. But even outside of that, right? I look at Kevin Warren in a case like this, right? Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles. Like, Kevin Warren, you're the CEO. If this is the guy that you want, and they end up, and this is the guy that Ryan Poles says, no, this is the guy to lead us. This is the guy to get us over this hump. How much does Kevin Warren go to bat with ownership to say, hey, regardless, fuck all that noise, this is the guy that we need if we want to be a winning franchise? I'm just saying, if that's the way that they view it. Again, big ifs there, huge ifs there. So I'm not saying that's the absolute case or the end all be all, but I am saying that, hey, maybe something that the Bears have to look at when it comes down to it and make their decision on what needs to happen there. So, I think the Bears at the place they are now, getting the right guy, and that's something I've said for a while there, that same message, it's all about getting the right guy. Whoever that right guy is, if you truly feel and look at that guy being as the guy that's going to help lead this team, I think that you got to get it. I think that you got to go out there and get him regardless of any noise because, hey, we've all had bad days. But I can also understand the pessimism and the hesitation maybe to bring in a guy that people on the team that he was prior coach of are saying, hey, he's the one that completely killed the way that we viewed ourselves. We could not get going with this guy as the head coach. Let me know what you guys think on all that down. It's going to, listen, all this shit is going to continue being interesting to just watch how this all develops. And, between that and the Ryan Poles job conversation, and like I said, each and every day there's a different guy who's now the front runner to be the head coach. Of course, they got the Ben Johnson, the Mike Vrabel was it for points last week, Brian Flores, and it's going to keep being this thing until the Bears actually decide on a head coach. And I think a more important thing as well that I want to throw to you guys on this one. Let's say the NFL season ends. When the NFL season ends, Super Bowl happens, everything's closed out. How quickly do you think the Bears need to decide on their next head coach? Is it a process that they can wait until closer to the draft? Or do the Bears need to make that decision on that head coach as soon as possible? Would you like to see them get that done 2-3 weeks after the season ends, so then that way they can have all kind of one vision. Everybody can be on one accord. They can go through that draft process together, what the coach wants. He can pick his staff. What do you guys think about all of that? Or do you think this can be a more drawn-out process to where it goes a little bit longer? Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. But with that said, we do have a game today, this game against the Vikings, and there's some key things for the Bears, and I want to look at some things that need to happen in this game if the Bears want to have some success. Will they? That's a story for another day, but I think we got to look at it. Caleb Williams needs to have a really good game. When you look at the last game he played against the Minnesota Vikings, 68% of his passes he completed for 340 yards, which is the second most of his career, and he threw for 2 touchdowns. Caleb Williams needs to have that type of performance again against the Minnesota Vikings today. It is what it is. And he's also going to probably have to make some legs with his feet as well. When you look at it, he had 33 yards on 6 carries in that game against the Vikings because the pocket broke down. And hopefully it's not because of the pocket breaking down, but because of Caleb Williams just being creative and seeing where he can help this team and help move the chains. That's what it needs to come down to with the Chicago Bears with this offense, is consistently moving the chains. That's what you need to get to first. And when you move the chains consistently, you get closer to the end zone, then you can switch that focus to getting into the end zone. And I think that that's a huge part of this as well. Caleb Williams, it all comes down to him on offense, especially with DeAndre Swift being banged up. We don't have a lot of depth at that running back position anymore, right? We just don't have that. And so Caleb Williams and, of course, Thomas Brown and playing one of the things I want to look out for as well in this game, right, is Thomas Brown and how well, because I think, at least from one game, is that maybe Thomas Brown is not going to be the coach that can call plays from the sideline, right? And, and that's regardless of the head coaching future or whatever. Like, maybe that every coach has their thing that really makes them successful. And maybe him having that view from the box is the thing that he's going to need to be a successful play caller. Again, something to look out for, not necessarily something I'm saying for sure, but with this offense, really looking at Caleb Williams being the guy again for the Chicago Bears today. How much can he come in? If we want to compete in this game, we're going to need Caleb Williams to produce from that quarterback position. We're going to need him to make smart decisions down the field, not turn over the ball, and to have a big game for the Chicago Bears. But people he's passing to is as big of a deal in that as well. And we need Odunze and Cole Kmet to be involved in this game. Now, I've said it many times before. I personally think that Odunze is going to be the wide receiver 1 next year. I just think that that's the case. It's not to knock DJ Moore. DJ Moore's still going to have his lion's share of opportunities, make no mistake about it. But I think Rome has shown with his ability to just be a dog. I think Odunze has really shown that chemistry with Caleb Williams as well. I think that that's the case. But Rome Odunze needs to be a big part of this as well for the Chicago Bears tonight, and Cole Kmet. We have gone back to not really utilizing Cole Kmet in the way. Now, I'm not going to say that Cole Kmet hasn't had his mistakes that he's made as well, because he absolutely has made mistakes in what he's done and not really gotten past kind of smaller players that have been able to guard him and things like that, route things with him. But I think if we're able to get these guys in the end zone specifically, right, and do that, we can have a path. We know what DJ Moore is going to be and how we can get DJ Moore involved. If we can get Cole Kmet and Rome Odunze to show up to the party as well, that's going to be really good production for them. And, of course, Keenan Allen also. I don't want to overlook Keenan Allen, but we've gone a lot to Keenan Allen over the last few weeks. We need to get Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet consistently involved in this passing game, and we need to see what we can bring there. And then what can we do with the ground game? We got to become a two-threat team. If we just become one-dimensional, that allows the defenses to really set in on the Chicago Bears, and it's really difficult to do anything when the team knows you're going to be one-dimensional with any facet of the game, right? And we know that Swift has kind of been banged up. He averaged 2.3 yards per carry on 13 carries, and we need him to be better than that, right? And so we'll see what Swift brings in that time. We need Swift to produce. Yeah, he lost his backfield mate in Roschon Johnson, who honestly is probably not going to return this season if we're just being 100% honest with it. But we do need the running game to be solid, and it can't just be Caleb Williams. We need DeAndre Swift to show up. We need anybody who's checking in that running back game to show up for the Chicago Bears. We need that. And if we can't get it, it's going to make our offense one-dimensional. And, and of course the offensive line, right? We're down Braxton Jones, we now know, in this game. And, of course, that's another ding for a team that just continue to hurt things. Not that Braxton Jones has played the most amazing, but we can't act like Braxton hasn't made plays for this Bears team over the last few games either. He has, right? And so for an offensive line that already isn't the best, offensive line has already been struggling this season. We need this offensive line to do enough in this game to provide enough protection, right? That's all you got to do. Thomas Brown has called games to kind of overcome some of the limitations of that offensive line, but we still need this O-line to really stand up and stand out. And so offensively, that's the things that we need in this game. Defensively, listen, first of all, can we stop the run? Can we get teams off the field when needed, right? Like I've said it over basically since this losing streak has started, the Bears, even when they do have quarters in which they get or have sometimes where they get the opposing teams off the field on third downs, when it matters the most and some of the big momentum-changing plays, this Chicago Bears team has given up big plays down the field in both the run game and the passing game, and we need to stop that. And you look at the linebacking core, especially Tremaine Edmonds, he has not been what we thought we were getting in him. He has not been that. Now, I would say this, it hasn't been completely terrible either, but we need better. And then you look for that from Jalen Johnson. We need Jalen to get back to the Jalen Johnson we've seen at times. And I'm in no way down on Jalen overall, but I think at this point, Jalen has not really lived up, and he's made some big mistakes. Now, he's made some plays too, as has Tyreek Stevenson. And overall, this secondary has completely collectively lost its mojo after that Washington Commanders game. They have lost their mojo, right? And you got to start regaining that back a little bit. You have to, again, play with pride. They talked about wanting to play for Coach Thomas Brown. If that was a game in which you played for your interim head coach, just say you want to get them fired, right? This defense needs to perform better at every level. Yes, we need to be better at getting pressure. Yes, we're missing Andrew Billings, and now we're missing Javon Dexter as well, right? We're missing a lot of key pieces on that defensive line that had, that were putting some pressure on quarterbacks. We need to get back to that. We got to stop the run. We got to stop the run. We got to stop the big plays when it matters the most. We got to do that. And if the defense cannot stop the big plays in this game, cannot limit those big plays while getting the opposing team off the field and keeping them from the end zone, it's going to be a long night against this Minnesota Vikings team on national TV against the Minnesota Vikings. This game could be an absolute massacre for the Chicago Bears. I want to be clear here. It could be an absolute massacre in which we're looking at this team and wondering, how the hell did this happen? And overall, show some pride out there, right? Show some pride for your fans. Show some pride for yourselves. Show some pride because, listen, do you want to go on an 11-game losing streak? Do you want that to be the lasting taste in your mouth for your fans and for yourselves that you were the team that went on an 11-game losing streak after your bye week and your season got completely away from you because y'all couldn't stand up and play as men, right? That's what this team needs to do. And Eric Washington as well, as a defensive coordinator, you left a lot to be desired what you're calling. And it's now your time to stand up and show what you can bring again. We need this from this team. And listen, am I expecting the Bears to win? Hell no. I'm not crazy. I'm a Bears fan, which people may say may bring some of its own lunacy there. Absolutely. But listen, we got to get this done because we can get it done, because we can do it. And I just want to see a team play with some pride. Win, lose, draw, whatever happens, I just want to see this team play with some pride. That's it, right? Go out there and play with heart. Lay it all out on the football field, because listen, at the end of the day, you just play. Pride is the only thing you're playing for now. Go out there and produce. But all right, y'all, that's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. That's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.